we've not seen the questions before, by the way. Yeah. So our team put it in, and we are joined by two lovely ladies. We have Veron and Melissa, who are behind the scenes, and we also have with us our intern Mirza, who have just joined our team as well. So Mirza is also observing how the live Q&A is going on. We're just sharing with you what goes on behind the scenes.
This is a fun question. It's still public speaking related. So it's how to be humorous. And the person commented, joining contests for years and still couldn't deliver effective humorous speech. So how to be humorous? It's one of the first few questions that I started out with when I first started the public speaking journey. Because for myself, when I first started out, I was very, very comfortable with the more maybe inspirational, motivational kind of style of speaking, which is just standing more still, more stable, having a more professional voice tone and all that. And until one of my mentors, back then in Toastmaster, this mentor is I won't say who her name is, but she has been one of the key figures in my earlier part of my speaking journey. She's very, very strict, and she's one of those who, whenever I do a speech in a Toastmasters meeting or any other setting, and people will be commenting like, oh, that's very energetic, that's very fun, she'll be the one who will come over and will always have a constructive feedback for me to improve on in the next part. And there was one day she came to me and she said, Zhu, your speaking style has been quite stale. Very standard all the way. It's always the same style whenever you present. Have you ever tried humorous speeches? And I told her, I said, I don't think I'm funny at all. So I said, I don't think I can do very well in humorous speeches. And she said, and that is exactly why you should try humorous speeches. And I took that jump. And some of the things, the reason why I wanted to share with this first is that understanding how to be humorous is a very powerful tool to have in any speaking setting, because you can transfer some of these skills over to other speech types like inspirational, motivational styles as well. And I thought I'd start out first by highlighting that in order to be humorous, you're not just trying to be a stand-up comedian on stage, you're not just telling jokes non-stop during your delivery. It's more about adding humorous elements into your speech. And my early experience, one of the main things that I really remember forcing myself to go through humorous speeches even though I wasn't comfortable with it, I think that would be the first tip I would give, which would be that humorous speeches, humorous elements are quite challenging to pull off. There's always that voice at the back of your mind that says, I won't be funny, and then what if the audience doesn't laugh and all that. But jumping into it really helped me to be comfortable with that possible uncertainty. So being able to present and just maybe dealing with the silence, for example, turning that into a humorous element in itself, it's also quite powerful. So if I've had situations before when I first started out with my humorous speeches and no one laughed, but being able to turn that around and continue my speech, that was a very great learning point. So I think that was one thing, being just brief enough to just dive in. The second thing is, for humorous speech, the confidence element is very important, mainly in how you deliver your humorous elements. So like a joke, for example, your timing has to be very clear. If you were to tell your punchline with like a reduced volume and your tone going down, for example, that's not going to work. Most of the time, you need to give your punchline in a very confident manner. One of my mentor said that you need to tell a joke like as though it's the funniest joke on earth. Even if you feel like it's not, you really have to just believe that your joke is the funniest thing, because that will translate to your delivery and how your audience will receive that joke as well. The last thing that maybe can help you to be a more humorous speaker, I think, is to use a lot more of your body language elements. So back to my experience at the start, when I used to present more motivational, inspirational style speeches, it's always just very steady, very stable, just very clear movements around the stage. But when I started doing humorous speeches, I started to develop a different style, storytelling styles, for example, that made me move from one part of the stage to another, really exaggerating movements, for example. So if, let's say I were to just say, this morning I went to the MRT and it was very crowded, very boring, but if I really to use my body language and go, wow, this morning I went to the MRT station, it was so crowded, like a sardine tin, for example. Just using your body elements, make it slightly humorous compared to or more entertaining, at least, more than standard delivery. So using more of your body language elements, that's another way to try to add more humorous elements into your speech. So yeah, those 3 tips on how to be humorous.
Correct. I remember my own journey when I took part in a humorous speech contest. It was very different, because it was one where we prepared the humorous speech, and then thereafter, if the audience members don't laugh, what happens? So humorous speech, I was also able to understand from the journey of taking part in humorous speech contests that a lot of the technique comes in being able to craft the humorous speech, knowing how the audience members think in a way, and also at the same time how to perform what we call recovery, and at the same time to ensure that even when the audience members don't laugh, how we are able to still continue in a manner that's confident, that doesn't break the momentum. So if I were to share, and I agree with Zubro, what he shared too, for example, from body language down to perhaps playing around with your voice. I would share also, on top of that, the 3 C's approach. Now, typically we share the 3 C's when we talk about body language in the classroom, which is context, cluster, and congruency. Now, for humor, it can be applied in a similar manner as well. So, in humor, context is very, very important, because sometimes a joke, a punchline, a punch word that we use in a certain culture may not be very appropriate in another culture. So this is one thing that we need to be aware of, be a bit more mindful. We can always test it before a live crowd, find out from the audience, and then to have a sensing of what would be appropriate culturally before we decide to then approach that as a formal delivery. So that is one thing to take note of. So in the humorous speech contest, like for instance Toastmasters, some of the themes, the recurring themes would be like male-female relationship, perhaps husband-wife relationship, getting a boy or girlfriend, it could be marriage and all. I noticed some of the speakers decided to also venture into other more adventurous areas. Some speakers also decided to test the boundaries a little bit. So how do you know what is acceptable? No one can really tell you what the correct answer is, other than to really have a sensing of what the cultural context is. So that's the first C. The next C would be that of cluster. So humor is very much a part of not just the choice of words, but like what Zubro mentioned, the body language as well. So I mean, you can have the best punchline, punch word and all, but if your body language is not going to be useful, then it's not going to help you channel that effectively to the audience. So it must be seen as a cluster, as a group of humorous cues. And the final one, it's congruency. Congruency, I would say it needs to, of course, match the body language, but yet the fun thing about humorous speech is that there must also be a mismatch at times. What do I mean by mismatch? Mismatch, I mean when there's a mismatch of expectation. My mentor once shared with me that the smarter your audience members are, the funnier you will get. In fact, the funnier your jokes will be, because the audience members tend to think faster than you. They tend to jump a few steps, which is the best, because when they jump a few steps, that means when you set their expectations and you derail their expectation, it helps to engender a much stronger burst of laughter. So humor, what you can do to work on the 3 C's. Specific technique wise, you can explore it with your coaches, with your mentors. As part of our content marketing master plan, we are going to be sharing more techniques on humor as well, ranging from using the exaggeration technique, the power of 3, making use of self-deprecating humor, taking a look at common observations. So these are some techniques, but techniques are techniques. It's the application of the techniques plus making sure that you satisfy some of the other conditions that will make you truly an effective humorous speaker. So just take note of that, and yeah, I think that is a lovely way, engaging way to start off the live Q&A.
Humorous features.
Yeah, humorous features. And if you're watching it, tuning in for the very first time, feel free to send your questions over. If you have any comments for us, let us know. If you like our background, you like the quotes, let us know as well. Just type in, I like your quotes. You want to see better quotes, just type in the quote that you like to see.